So my name is Mike Smith, and my firm is a firm out of Atlanta, Georgia. It's Calvin Smith Injury Law. Edward Trader, the plaintiff, my client in the case, he was in his late 40s at the time of the car wreck. He worked as a supervisor of a cable tech company. He kind of worked his way up in that capacity to supervisor. So I think he was really proud of his job, and he was proud that he was able to take care of his family. Edward Trader was coming from a birthday party with some friends one evening, and he was a passenger. But what made it unique was he was asleep at the time of the rear ending. And so he gets rear ended and it jolts him awake, but he stomps his foot down. And that action actually is what caused his main injuries, which is a jamming of the hip, which ultimately caused a contusion. It's called avascular necrosis, where there's lack of blood flow to the ball of the hip. And so that death of that hip caused him to need a hip replacement. Well, the defense brought, kind of a lot of the typical challenges to a case like this. It was a, fairly low impact collision. The very little visible property damage. The mechanism of injury was pretty unusual in terms of the stomping mechanism. So that was obviously brought up. They hired very well-known, prominent orthopedic doctor to say that the hip problem was unrelated. But what was really challenging was trying to help a jury and the defense and the court really understand this injury. And that's why I think the animations in the case were so helpful, because this was really the type of injury that you really needed to see. The goal was to initially just, secure the policy limits. I mean, there were $50,000 in limits, and in Georgia, it's kind of all we had available to us unless they blew the policy limit, meaning they didn't accept the policy limit demand. They did blow the policy limits because they just didn't see a lot of exposure. And then after that, the goal was to make it as explicit as possible that we're dealing with a much more serious injury than I think both sides initially imagined with regard to the hip. I think that changed the landscape for the defense. And we really started developing the case and really showing the value of what had been taken from our client with regard to him no longer being able to be a supervisor as a cable tech. And so we told that story. We told that human story, but we also told a very compelling medical story. I mean, we made that all visual and very palpable. So we got it settled for $500,000. So you go from $50,000 to settling it for 10 times that. Under the circumstances, it was a good result for the client. I found that DK Global, the individuals I've worked with, are really interested in getting it right, presenting it in a compelling way, and just being curious about, are there other ways to present this, or other ways to think about this? So I think that visuals can really be a game changer when you're already telling a great story about your client, who they are, about what's been done to them through some act of carelessness, negligence, betrayal. They can really add to the drama of the story and really draw the jurors in so that you can do justice for your client.